Welcome back everybody, another Build Your Own BPOS lesson coming in hot here. We'll be expanding on the topic of table service from a while back and looking at our hold and fire feature today. A word of warning though, as with some of the other higher level topics that we've been getting into, this lesson may not be for everybody because the functionality of hold and fire may not be required in your venue. But just give me a few minutes to explain, maybe 5 minutes or so, the overarching use case scenarios, and if this lesson isn't for you, then feel free to turn it off. If you're not sure what hold and fire is, or why we have it, or what it's used for, don't worry. As I said, I will explain in just a minute. After I explain, we'll get into the system setups that are involved and different options as far as configuring the related till function buttons. And we'll finish afterwards with some demos in SmartPOS, showing the different workflows and things based on how the till functions are set up. Just keep in mind that, as usual, we will not be able to cover every single use case out there, but you will still get a good understanding of how hold and fire can be implemented. That being said, my 5 minutes will say starts now. So what is hold and fire, you ask? At its inception, hold and fire was initially developed to provide a solution to environments where products may need to be rung up in advance, so placed into the system ahead of time, be that for an event that's going to be held at a specified time, or for guests that maybe want to place an order today for something that they actually want tomorrow. For example, let's say that No Hats, No Stars here has expanded, and we now have a hotel attached to the venue where we offer room service. By the way, in this case, the room or the room number is the table, and we would have a table group set up for room service. We'd also optionally add a new store to the venue to be used exclusively for room service, but that's another discussion altogether. Anyway, in this scenario for our expanded hotel here, guests can order breakfast or brunch today to be delivered to their room tomorrow. And to be more efficient and also mitigate the chance of some human error, we want to enter the orders into the system when they're ordered, so today, but just hold them in the system until the next morning, so tomorrow, when they can be triggered to be printed to remote printers at that time. At which point, our world-class culinary staff will prepare the orders to be delivered to the rooms. So we'll run through a demo showing this later, but when we initially place and save the order, we can enter a delivery time so that tomorrow morning, the order will automatically print to remote printers with enough prep time allowed for items to be prepared and delivered at the requested time. Another use case or scenario for this type of hold and fire functionality could be that we have a party or event space within the venue and we host parties there for guests, and they can let us know their order for their food and beverage and that sort of thing ahead of time. We can place that into the system maybe a week before, the day before, whatever the case may be, and have everything set up so that those items will automatically print to remote printers when the time comes. And you'll see that we can actually update dates and times and things like that after that table essentially is initially created and prior to anything being printed. Cool, we'll get into more of that later. Now, as I said, that was the original reason that this feature set started being designed and developed, or more so for the hotel example there with room service that I had mentioned a couple minutes ago. But it was soon realized that the functionality involved of selling products on a table and holding them from being printed straight away could be implemented in other scenarios as well. Most evident, as you might imagine, was for table service dining environments where wait staff might take a table's order for, let's say, a 3 or 4 course meal, enter everything into the system at the same time, but not want everything printed to remote printers just yet. Or maybe not even a 4-course meal type of dining scenario, maybe in more casual settings where a guest might order starters and mains at the same time, or drinks, starters and mains at the same time. Then using the hold and fire functionality, staff can ring everything up in one shot. Then when it's time to send something through to be printed to the remote printers, all it takes is a couple taps, rather than the wait staff racking their brains trying to remember the order that they took 20 minutes back, or flipping through their order pad looking for it and maybe they've misplaced it or whatever the case may be. So just to summarize what hold and fire is, it's a feature that's used for delaying the printing of table orders products to remote kitchen printers until a later point in time. And that goes for whether those remote kitchen printers are traditional paper printers or a kitchen display system is being used. I know we haven't discussed kitchen display systems in the past in this course, at least I don't believe we have. Maybe they've been mentioned once or twice, but hold and fire can be implemented with KDSs as well. There's a multitude of options for setting up hold and fire depending on how the venue operates and what workflows are going to be needed, but essentially there are two distinct main hold and fire options. First is having products that have been held to then print automatically at a predetermined time, and the second is printing held products manually whenever the time comes and an operator can go into SmartPause, pull up the table, and print products manually. But there are some enhancement and advanced workflows to this as well that we will see shortly. The other bit that plays into automatic versus manual hold and fire printing is that we can configure certain product sorts to be held automatically all the time. But that also depends on how the till functions are set up, so let's just get into that stuff now. So we'll start with the return to the venue level tables tab here and this little section labeled hold and fire. By the way, you might have been able to guess this, but it's called hold and fire because what we're doing is holding products and then firing them when needed. But anyway, from here, we can define which product sorts can be automatically held from printing if we do choose to then set up a till function button that will reference this list. But more of that in a minute. But there's a till function that we'll see next, which is called save table hold fire, which, as the name suggests, is used to save a table and hold products from printing. By default, the products that will automatically be held using that function are any that belong to the product sorts that are selected here. So if I scroll down, we can see that this list replicates all 30 product sorts from the system, whether they've been defined with names or not, and it lets us choose which ones are going to be automatically held and which ones aren't. So if I select, let's say, starters, mains, sides, and desserts, any products that have those product sorts assigned to them are going to be held automatically to then be printed later when we use the save table hold fire till function. Now I should mention this in no way impacts any manual hold and fire functionality. We'll see when we get into the till functions setup and into SmartPause that we can also manually choose to hold any product regardless of the product sort it belongs to. The setup here is only for automatic holding. And depending on the till function setup, we can actually override this list and choose to hold everything. We will look at those in just a second though, but how this is set up at the moment, when we use the till function to auto hold products, all starters, mains, sides, and desserts, or at least the products that have those product sorts assigned to them, will be held automatically. The other thing while we're here is this warning minutes section, or this warning minutes setting, not to be confused with the table group warning minutes or the table course warning minutes. This one is linked directly to the save table hold fire till function. What this does is define how many minutes after a table has initially been saved using that function that a warning prompt is going to trigger at SmartPause, notifying or alerting that products have not been printed yet. I should mention that it isn't singling out only the products that belong to these product sorts though, so if we are holding all products or have manually selected products that belong to other product sorts, we will still be alerted. And the warning prompt will then also repeat every X number of minutes if the products remain held. Of course, every venue will be different, but just for our demo, what I might do here is set this to 5 minutes, so it'll be triggered later when we're in SmartPause. I will probably come back and turn it off or reset it back to 0 once we see it, because as I said, it will keep prompting every 5 minutes at that point. Another thing I want to point out while we're here is that I have added this table group here called event/party, and that will be used for our demo later when we see how some hold and fire functionality can be used for that type of scenario. So what I'll do is I'll save this. We will head to our till function map. We'll take a look at what we've got set up here. So there are a total of 4 related hold and fire till functions. Before we get to those though, one thing I do want to point out related to that table group that I just showed you that I had created for events and parties is I have added a table open alpha till function here, and I've set that to be linked to that table group. So that's what we'll be using later when we run through that demo. Just wanted to point that out. But focusing on the hold and fire till functions, we do have one on this panel. If I select that, it is called display tables with hold fire products. It is used to do just that. It will display a list of tables that currently have held products on them. Theoretically, this till function button could be placed on any panel, but probably going to be on maybe a manager panel, or maybe just on panel 1 like this. There is only a couple of setup options for it. So using the item field, we can optionally show print and delivery dates. Print and delivery dates there. So that would most likely, we would want that on for any venues that would use this feature set for some advanced day ahead ordering, or for events and parties, or room service and things like that. So that when we actually pull up that list, we would be able to see the print dates and times, the print and delivery dates. Otherwise, the list will show print and delivery times if applicable, without dates. So times will be shown by default. We can opt to also show dates if we would like to. Then using the sub item field, this is a requirement by the way. We do need to set the table group for the system to look to for tables with held products. So in our case here, where we might be holding products for 2 different table groups, one for our normal dining table group and one for events and parties, we would need to have 2 separate table groups set up here, or sorry, 2 separate till functions set up here to show those lists, one for each table group. And I should also mention, this is not a case where we can leave this blank or enter 0 to see all table groups or anything like that. And because of that, this one also needs to be a little bit different in how it's set up. Notice that the number that's entered here is actually has to be the table group +1, as is mentioned right here. So we know from past lessons that the table groups within the venue settings are numbered 0 through 7. However, when we are setting these here, they need to be entered as 1 through 8, which is why I've got 1 entered in for this particular till function. So it will show us the held tables, the tables that have held products for table group 0. Anyway, that's what we've got that entered. So I mentioned that this till function could be theoretically on any panel, but the other 3 till functions that are used for hold and fire, not so much, since they are all directly table related. So one is used to save tables, and the other 2 can only be used while in table transactions. Which I should mention, not that there would be a use case for hold and fire with bistro service, but these till functions would not be compatible with bistro tables. They also are not compatible with orders that are started using the delivery or pickup table function, only the standard table open function. So if I go to that, so table open alpha, graphical table, and graphical table alpha will be compatible with these functions. And because of that, it is very important to have the other hold and fire functions placed either directly on the table panel, or at least to be able to get to them somehow from the table panel. The second table panel would be one option, or what I've done here is I've put them on an extra panel. We can see I've got this button labeled here, hold and fire panel, which we can see is pointing to extra panel 3. And if we head to extra panel 3 in my database here, it's where I've got all of these hold and fire till functions configured. Now this mix that's here may not be realistic for an actual venue, but just for demonstration's sake, to show as much functionality as we can, I've got a few iterations of each of these set up and ready to go. So I'll summarize each one first, and then we'll go through each in a bit more detail. The first of the 3 is one that I've referenced a couple times already, is going to be our save table hold fire till function here. And we can see that I've got 3 of them all together that have been configured slightly differently. So this function works similar to the standard save table function, in that the active table will be saved. But as a default, what'll also happen when it's used is that all products whose product sorts are configured in the venue settings to be held automatically will be held from printing for the time being. Now I'll explain each of these 3 in a second, but then the next that we've got, these ones that I've got in this blue color, are our display/print table hold fire product. So this function, you can see I've got several iterations of here. This would be used for after products have been held on the table, when the operator does need to print those held products if they would like to print them manually. There's a couple options that we'll get into, and another option from SmartPause that we'll see is that we can also set a timer to determine when products will print. So not only can these be used to print products manually, but they can be used to set timers for products to print automatically. But more on that in a bit. And the last of the three in this orangey color that I've got over here is going to be our toggle table hold fire products function, which I just have these two iterations of. This function is going to be used to manually toggle hold and fire functionality. So this one doesn't have too many options. We can see just whether to follow the venue settings of the predefined product sorts and only hold those when it's toggled on. So that is how I've got this set up with 0 entered into the item field. Or when a hold and fire is toggled on using this function, we can ignore those settings and be able to hold any product regardless of the product sort. So that's how I've got this one set here with 1 entered into the item field. It can be used to toggle that on and hold all products regardless of those venue settings. So one use case would be that there is no auto hold and fire in place. There's just no default product sorts being held at all, and waitstaff just always manually select which products are going to be held. Maybe hold and fire isn't used extensively in the venue, but they do have a manual toggle option available. But anyway, I've got both options set up here for our demonstration purposes that we'll see in just a couple minutes. Alright, so that's a quick overview of the 3 different hold and fire till functions that we've got, just to give you a general idea of what each one is used for. And the toggle function we will not need to come back to explain anything further with these, because like I said, just the one option there in the setup with the item field either set to all or to follow the product sorts. But yeah, we will go back to the start and we'll go through each one of these configuration options for these other till functions here. We'll explain how and why each of these is set up the way that they are. That way when we get into SmartPause in a couple minutes and we run through some workflows, things will make a bit more sense. So starting back with this save table hold fire function, like I said, we've got the 3 set up here, but these are just some examples. So the item field for these could be configured in about 6 or 7 different ways, and then we could go from there. But yeah, for our first example here, which I have labeled save table hold auto, is going to adhere to the venue settings product sorts that were set to auto hold. That's because I haven't configured the item field to hold all here. So we've just got 0 entered, which is just going to, as I said, the default is going to hold the product sorts that are set up in the venue settings. And it's not going to prompt asking operators for a date or time to print products. We can see that that is an option for the item field also. Staff would just display and print products manually as needed, or set a timer using the display print function. You'll see what I mean when we get into SmartPause though. And for our second example here, this would be used for manual printing as well, but rather than adhere to any auto holding based on the venue settings, all products on the table would initially be held from printing when it's saved. So that's been configured using the item field. By just entering 1 into there, we can see that will hold all items. And finally, for our third iteration here, using this will also hold all products. Because I've entered 7 into the item field, 1 plus 2 plus 4, all of these 3 options are going to be in place, so waitstaff will be prompted to enter a date and time, and all items will be held. But we'll see in SmartPause that the date and time that are entered are for when products are to be delivered, not necessarily printed. The use case for something like that would be that first couple of scenarios where I talked about at the start of the lesson, where either a hotel guest calls down today for room service tomorrow, or someone calls in maybe today for an event that's going to take place next week, and we can enter the date and the time that the products are going to need to be ready. So then along with that, we can configure some prep time using the sub item field. In this case, I've got 30 minutes entered. What that means is, so let's say for example, a guest calls down right now, and when I entered the order, I'm prompted to enter the delivery time, the delivery date and time, because that's how I've got the item field configured here. I can enter tomorrow's date. I can enter the delivery time as 8 a.m. So that's when the order should be delivered to the room, but it will be printed to remote printers 30 minutes prior to that, so 7:30 a.m. And using the key field, we are just setting the text that's going to show on those prompts. So here I've entered event/party, and we'll see that in SmartPause shortly. So that is the key field here is only relevant if these prompts are set to be for the operator to be prompted to enter the date and time. And the prep time is only relevant if the time prompt is being used there. Cool. Then if we look back to our display/print table hold fire products function, a bit of a mouthful for the name of that one, but it certainly gets the point across. Again, I've got quite a few set up here, but really not much to it. Actually, these are all double buttons. If you remember back to our till function lesson, that we can opt to draw buttons horizontally here. So for double buttons here, if we have them next to each other, they will be too wide. You can see the same for the save and send and the cancel here. But anyway, first up for this till function, using the item field, the function can be set to show either all held products by entering 0, or we can enter the number of a product sort for only those products to be displayed together. So that is why I've got these other ones here, just each one configured for a different product sort. So we've got our starters, our mains, and our desserts. This last one down here, just to round everything out and show the full feature set of this till function, using the sub item field for this till function, this could be another way to set a date and time for products to print, or if the date and time that were set when the order was saved, if we are using a save table hold fire till function like this one that's going to prompt for the date and time, we can then use this to change that at a later point if we would like to. Cool, so all of that should reinforce the point that a system would not be necessarily set up like this, and some combinations of these function buttons that are configured in a certain way would only make sense if the others are configured in a certain way also. So for example, this display/print function wouldn't need to be set up to ask for a date here unless we have a save table hold fire function like this one that is prompting for a date initially also. Cool, and I hadn't mentioned this yet, but it's assumed that some things would be taken care of already in the system before hold and fire is implemented, so product sorts should obviously be set up correctly, and remote printing and all its subcomponents like printer profiles and all that should be configured and taken care of as well. But we have covered all of those things in past lessons in this course anyway, so as long as you've got those things set up already, you will be good to go. Cool, well that covers our till functions, how they can be configured and how we've got these ones configured. What we'll do now then is jump into SmartPause. We'll run through some demonstrations using these till functions set up like this, and with the venue hold and fire settings set to hold those 4 product sorts automatically, so our starters, mains, sides, and desserts. Okay, so first up here, I will show just a basic sort of bare bones usage of hold and fire by auto holding the product sorts that are configured to do so within our venue settings. Remember, that's going to be all the products that are assigned to the product sorts of starters, mains, sides, and desserts. So something like this may be used in venues where multiple courses are ordered and entered into SmartPause together. However, maybe only drinks should be printed straight away, and the other product sorts are set up to be held initially and then printed later. So what I'll do here is I'll just go with a new table. So I've got all that stuff entered there now. I may have fast forwarded through me adding on those products. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to head to our hold and fire panel, so the extra panel 3 that I've had that till function button there point to. And from within this panel, I'm going to use our save table hold auto, or what I've labeled as save table hold auto. So again, it's the save table hold fire till function that is going to be using those venue settings. When I do that, we can see the drinks are going to print because they are not configured to automatically hold, but the products that are assigned the product sorts that do automatically hold are going to be held. They have not printed. I can show printer 3 here also. I'll show all printers there so we can see only our drinks have printed here. To save on some screen space here, I'm just showing printer 2, but we've got all products. I've got remote printing set up, so all products will be printed to here. But anyway, we could see that those products, the other products that have been held, have not been printed yet. If we go back into the table list, we can see the table here is in this green color, and the status of it is desserts sold and held, even though other courses have been sold and held as well. That is essentially the highest or the latest course, as it may be put, that's been sold and is being held. So if we open that, we can see the products that have been printed in the light green color, products that have been held and not printed yet, still in the dark green color. So what we might do now is go back into our hold and fire panel. What we can do now is we can use these display/print till function buttons, and we might go sort by sort, or we could go all, but what I'll do for this demo is we'll go sort by sort. We'll go into the starters. Maybe it's been a few minutes have passed, so we want these to print straight away. We can choose to print those now. We could then maybe go back in there. We could go to the one that's been set up for mains. We could go into that. We can select all of the products here, maybe only a couple, but for our demonstration, I'll go ahead and select all of them, and we'll set a timer. We'll just set this for these to print in 2 minutes. We'll get a little confirmation prompt that these will print at 12:15. Okay. And we might go back in there and we'll set actually I won't set a timer for this, but we'll just show that we can see the desserts separately as well. And then maybe we'll come back later on in the meal and we'll set a timer for those to be printed. Maybe once the mains have been delivered to the table, we'd come back and set a timer for when the dessert should be printed. So I'll cancel out of that. Another option could be if we go into the all option here, that we will be able to see all of the products that are currently held on the table. Notice that for the mains that I did set a timer for, that we can see the print time there. And for the desserts that we haven't set a time for, they're just going to be shown as manual for the print time. Now I should mention that something else I forgot to mention earlier. If we had added something like some sides to this table, because there is no display/print option specifically for that product sort, we would only be able to see them using this all option. But anyway, just something to keep in mind there. If you are not setting a separate till function for certain product sorts, that they will still be able to be seen if we do have a button set up to show all, of course. Cool, and right on time. The timer that I had set for the mains is now printing those. We can see that coming up there. Another option, like I said, we could do now is that since those have printed, we'll say that we're really rushing things along here for our lunch service today. So we might set a timer for maybe 15 minutes for the desserts to be printed, and we can get our little confirmation prompt there. So at this point, everything has either been printed or has been scheduled to print. So if we go ahead and look at that now, you can see the only products that still have yet to be printed are the desserts, and we can confirm that print time there. So I just go ahead and save and send that one. If we go back to the table list, it's still going to show that same status, but we can see that only those 2 products have yet to be printed. Cool, so that covers sort of a standard, basic, albeit rushed workflow for how the auto hold and fire functionality might be set up and used. So we'll have a look at a slightly different workflow where maybe the venue does not have the product sorts set up to auto hold at all, and just initially holds all products and then prints them manually. In that case, we would not have all of these till functions that we've seen here, but we'll just pretend that we only have the ones that I'm going to use in this scenario. So let me just actually go ahead and clear that. I'll start another new table here. Now we'll go to our hold and fire options. Again, we'll pretend that some of these functions don't exist in this scenario, and we will go with save table hold all. So this is not going to look at the product sorts. We'll pretend that maybe those haven't been set up in this scenario, and we are just going to initially hold everything and then come back and manually print when needed. So now when we go ahead and reopen that table, we would then maybe use the display/print all. And what we might do then is select our drinks to be printed straight away. So we've got the print selected here rather than print all. And then we might go back in there and we might set, let's say, a 5-minute timer for the starters. And then maybe do that again, and we can confirm the print time there for those again, and maybe set a 20-minute timer for the mains or something like that. Cool, and then we can just save our table there. If we go back into the table list, we can confirm mains sold/held, and that those are all, while some of those haven't been printed yet, they've at least been designated to be printed or scheduled to be printed, and we can confirm that by going into there again. Cool, so that's a bit of a set it and forget it, sort of a half manual option, even though all products were held to begin with. Another option is that we could use that toggle table hold fire function that we have not seen yet. So remember, our toggle table function is set up to adhere to, or we've got two of them, one that's set up to adhere to the product sorts that have been configured to hold automatically, and one that's not. So for the one that is, what I might do, start another table. And before we add anything, we'll go straight to those options, our hold and fire panel, and we will use the toggle hold fire by sort. So this is the one that will follow the product sorts that have been configured. And what I'll do now is I will add some drinks here. I will add some mains and starters. And notice that the held products again are going to be in green, so since we are following the venue settings there, again, the drinks are not going to be held, the other product sorts will be. But let's say that maybe this table wants a starter to go out with the drinks, or at least as soon as possible, so we might toggle that off. And then let's say they want an order of spinach dip to go out straight away. If I click off of that, we can notice that that is not going to be highlighted in green there. That's not going to be initially held because we have toggled that off. Should also have pointed out that when that function button is toggled on, the colors will be inverted there. Cool, so what we might do then is we would use save and send table function. This would need to be used in this case since the save table hold fire till function would override the manual selections, and it would either, depending on how that was set up and which one we used, it would either auto hold or it would hold all. So in this case, because we are opting for the toggle option and to manually hold, we would just need to use the standard table save till function. And there we can see that those products will have printed. We'll see those print here, and that the other products that we had toggled to hold will be held. If we go back into that table, we can confirm that there. Cool, so there we've seen how we can still implement auto holding based on the product sorts that are configured to hold, but can also turn that off, sort of override that if we need to for select items. But we could go completely manual if that toggle hold fire button is set up for that as well. So meaning that in this database where drinks are not set to be auto held, we can hold them. And we can see here the timer that I had set for table 2 to print their starters. Those have just printed for us there. But yeah, like I was saying, we do have the toggle all manual option there. So if we go ahead and start another table, we can use that one. So this would be for instances where maybe no auto hold is set up and we can just manually implement case by case, product by product. So again, straight to the hold and fire options. And in this example, we'll go toggle hold fire all, and we could add some drinks here. Notice that those are going to be held. They're in our green color there, and I'll just add some starters here, and we could go ahead and go back. We could toggle that off, maybe add some different drinks. Maybe they want some drinks and maybe some oysters to come out now as soon as possible, and the rest to be held for a bit later. And maybe we forgot to add something that needs to be held, so we can toggle that back on. And maybe we missed entering in a pina colada there, so we can toggle that back on and have that be held. And then again, we would need to use the standard save table function here, and we can go ahead and send those through and have those products print and the other ones be held. So completely manual holding there. And then when the time comes, we could go back into that table, go back to our hold and fire functions, and we could manually print when needed, or we could print by product sort if we needed to. Cool, I was wondering when this was going to come up. So this is based on our the warning timer that we had set at the venue level. So this is letting us know that it's been 5 minutes since some products on table 3 have been ordered but not yet printed. So again, I've just set that to 5 minutes for our demonstration here. Depending on your venue, you may wish to set that for a longer period of time, or maybe not set that at all. What I will do is turn that off at the venue settings now, so we don't see that popping up every couple minutes here, because it will start coming up for the other tables as well. Okay, back to SmartPOS. Okay, now last up we will check out a long-term hold workflow where things might be set up to take an order today for tomorrow, or today for next week, or something like that. So I will use the table open alpha option that I've got set here for our events and parties table group. And let's go ahead and start one there. We'll just say I'll just call it party, but obviously this might be the name of the party, the guest last name, or whatever the case may be. So-and-so's 21st. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start that. So we've got everything entered here. All we can do now, find our hold and fire till functions. In this case, we're going to use this third iteration that I have set up here, which will hold everything, and it's also going to ask for a date and time. So when I use that, it is going to default to tomorrow's date, the 5th of July here, and I'll just go ahead and just select that for demonstration purposes here. And we can enter a time here. Now I should mention that this is using a 24-hour clock, so if we wanted this to be for 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we would enter 1300 there. And we will get a confirmation here. Now this is going to show event/party order. That's based on the text that we entered into the key field for this till function. Remember, I had entered that as event/party. You can see the name that we entered there, showing as number, but again, we've got this set up for table open alpha, and we've entered the name there. And we can see our delivery time that I just entered, and based on how the till function has been configured with the 30-minute prep time there, that will actually print out at 12:30. Cool. Now, let's suppose that maybe they have called and they need to change that time. We can go back into that. We can see our status here that's been, oh, that is the right one, party, cool. We can reopen that if we go to our display/print all of, actually for this case, we'll do the all with the ask time and date, and we can confirm the print times and the delivery times for those. And again, based on how we've got the till function set up, this is going to show the date along with the times. And what we might do then is we can set a new time for this. Maybe we'll leave it for tomorrow, but maybe they've called and said that needs to be for 2 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock. We can confirm that. Cool. Something else that we can do is we can actually pay for this ahead of time. So that's an option for us here. They could have called, given us their Visa details over the phone, and we could go ahead and pay for that. Now, because I have this table group set up with the do not ask close flag turned off, I am going to be prompted to close. In this instance, so it is recommended to have this set up for a scenario like this, so that the table will not close automatically when the balance is brought to 0. I'm going to select no. Now if we go ahead and look at this again, we can see that their balance is 0. We can see the Visa payment there. If we do need to add anything else to this event or party, we could do so. We could actually still change the date and time. Maybe they've called us, they've said we need to change that to 2 o'clock, but we're going to go ahead and pay right now. And then they call back later in the day and say, you know what, actually we can hold to the initial time of 1 o'clock. So we can still come in and change that even though that has been paid for already. Cool, we could see back to our demo 1 there, our desserts that we had set the timer for there had been printed for table 1. Cool, so a few demos there, our final one there with the ordering ahead of time for a later date and time type thing. Something similar could be set up in environments where ordering in advance like that is a thing, whether it be for parties or events or room service or maybe something entirely different, that some other use case that is out there. So one last thing before we finish up, I do want to show you the display tables with hold fire products function. So if I just go ahead and save that, and I do not want to close that right now. Oh, we're going into training mode here. Let me turn that off. Cool, so this is the till function button that I had set up, or I had shown you was set up, which will display the tables that have products that are held on them. And again, this one is configured for our dining table group, so it will not show the event table group. But if we go ahead and click that, we can see that we do still have 3 tables here. Because the desserts have now printed for table 1, we still have 3 tables, table 2, 3, and 4, that have products held on them. We can see that table 2 has been scheduled to print at 12:37, and the other 2 have not been scheduled to print. And we can just use that. From that list, we can open the table straight from there. So just a quick way to view and access all the tables from that table group that currently have products being held and be able to get to them straight from that list. So if we'd like to use that as an alternative way to get to those once products have been held, we can do so. Maybe just go into table 4, maybe we could set a timer for those to print or print those manually if we'd like to. Cool, but just a few different workflows there that we've seen, again, depending on how the till functions have been configured in your venue, depending on operating procedures and so forth. Just a few options here. There could be plenty of other workflows that could be encountered depending on how they're set up and depending on how things need to be, how operations need to go in your venue. But that will do it for this lesson. Thanks as always for your time and attention.